One, two, three, okay.
When Alexander the Great came to India, he came across an enlightened man called the Hindu Sati. This man was staring at the sky. He goes and asks this man, "What are you doing?" The Hindu Sadhu replies, "I'm experiencing nothingness." And then the Hindu Sadhu asks Alexander, "What are you doing?" And Alexander says, "I am conquering the world." They both laugh at each other, thinking the other is a fool. But in truth, Alexander's subjective truth is that you need to take as much as you can out of life, and because you only live once, YOLO. And the subjective truth of the Hindu sadhu was, this is one of many lives, and the same life is repeated over and over again until you get the point of it all, like the movie Groundhog's Day. This idea of reincarnation is very important for you to understand how a woman would go to commit an act like Sati. Sati is both the practice and the widow who decides to burn herself to death at the cremation of her husband. The origin of Sati is mysterious, yet the British rule of India felt that they could blame Hinduism for forcing women to commit suicide. This false idea spread by the British made Hindus look like we ill-treat women. But what is written about women in Hindu scriptures empowers the feminine identity in this world. I myself am a practicing Hindu, and I know how my culture believes and behaves. And I also did a fair amount of research into the history of Sati. The information presented to you today, I hope you take the stories from the East and not connect them with your subjective truths, but see that other people also have subjective truths, and they sometimes use those ideas to justify their behavior. I will go through a theory about how Sati has started, and I will explain to you how the British misrepresented the practice of it. And I will tell you how Hinduism cures cancers like Sati. Werner Mirsch it's getting there. Werner Mirsch, in a review article of the Sati, states that the analysis of Sati and what it is and what it stands for has been too one-dimensional, too unhistorical, too uncompromisingly feminist rather than culture-specific. For a cultural understanding of Sati, imagine that you are an adult son of a woman who a married adult son of a woman who decides that her life is fulfilled, it's time to move to the next. So she joins her husband in his cremation. You, along with the society around you, will justify her action by saying she is a Sati, the one who is pure and chaste. But imagine the fate of his wife, who will come to the horror of the society, because slowly the society will start raising her expectations to behave like her mother-in-law, to also be a Sati. This is how an act of graceful passing will become a forced compulsion, forcing women mentally to commit suicide. And it was this mental disease in Indian society that provoked the social reformer Raja Ram Mohan Roy to run a crusade against the horrible fate of Sati. But the British, who were invading India in the 18th century, saw this crusade as an opportunity to take over India. Norbert Schurer writes in his essay, The Impartial Spectator of Sati, he writes, although Sati played a pivotal role in how the British imagined India in the 18th and early 19th centuries, it was never a widespread phenomenon in statistical terms. The British, who saw Sati happen, wrote back descriptions to Britain and drew pictures of how Sati happened, saying that these Hindu savages are creating and forcing women to do such terrible acts. And they basically came in and they abolished Sati, and they basically got control of the people of India. And you can even see how the British describe Sati, and in the pictures, you see the people pushing the women into a fire that is below the ground, where hell is. It is looked at in biblical perspective. But in truth, the cremation is always above the ground, and sati was always a voluntary act. You were never forced physically or pushed. And Hindu women in our culture are rarely physically touched, especially when it comes to rituals and the religion itself. And Robert Shore goes further and gives explanations about how the numbers are very vastly different. He gives an example from the Bengal presidency that says that only 330 women committed sati in the years between 1818 and 1829. This clearly shows that the British misrepresented the Indian situation to the rest of the world when they said that hundreds and thousands of people died, or only 430 people died in a matter of 10 years. And this really stained Hinduism, but Hinduism doesn't care. Because Hinduism is a fluid religion. It's always worried about the context. And Krishna says in his Bhagavad Gita, who is a Hindu god, he says that whenever righteousness is not upheld, whenever evil forces take over, I will reincarnate from age to age to restore dharma and righteousness. He means that a person with a profound divine experience and expression will come again age to age to re-establish truth. And for the women of the Bengal presidency, the Sharada Devi. Sharada Devi is that enlightened example. When her husband Ramakrishna died, she was also forced to do practices like sati, where women are forced to break their bangles. But she refused to break her bangles and said, I refuse to believe that he's dead. He's alive still. And she gives food and fans the picture of Ramakrishna even after he passes away. It is told that it is because of her that Ramakrishna and his spiritual Hindu mission to spread Hinduism and Vedic truth was successful because of her dedication to him. See, Ramakrishna himself is an ideal for Hindus because he worshipped Sharada Devi as the Divine Mother for a period of time. And in Sri Shankaracharya, why does this?
I don't know.
Okay. Sri Shankaracharya explains and sings in praise of the Divine Mother, saying, O Mother, you are the one who sits on the throne of the 5 gods who run this universe, who create, who maintain and rejuvenate this universe. When you sit on the throne, it is called Pancha Brahmasana, the seat of 5 gods. When you are not sitting on this throne, this is called Pancha Pretasana, the seat of 5 dead bodies. So in Hinduism, there is a big lineage of mother worship, of divine mother worship. And in conclusion, I would like to end with the story of the Divine Mother in her first incarnation, as a girl called Sati. See, Sati was a princess who fell in love and married the Hindu Lord Shiva. And her family doesn't accept as a part of society. Just like how Sharada Devi refused to listen to the family and society who told her that her husband was dead. Just like that, Sati said, I will marry Shiva and I love him. In the same way, Ramakrishna treated Sharada Devi as a divine mother. Shiva teaches Sati that there is divine in her and that she herself can become a god or a goddess. And then a grand ceremony is held in her kingdom by her father, and the ceremony of where to create prosperity, to gain money, to gain wealth, just like how the British had an intention to gain wealth and to gain and rule India. So in that ceremony, she goes there her husband and her are not invited, but she goes there and her family rejects her. Her family doesn't see her as a human being at all, just like how many of the widows are rejected to be seen as human at all. And she says, I can't live with a family who hates Shiva that much, so I'll take another birth. So she sits down and she does the first sati. She sits down and focuses on the internal spiritual fire within her and burns herself. And then Shiva, learning this information, decides to bring the apocalypse. He destroys Daksha, he destroys her father, he destroys everything, and he grieves for Sati. He carries her body around the universe in mourning. But he again restores the world, and he goes and sits in calm meditation. And sooner or later, he hears Sati calling for him again, but praying for him to come and marry her in the form of her next incarnation as Parvati. And Shiva soon marries her again and shows her how to become the Divine Mother.